Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Spotlight. I am with Stass. Stass, thank you for having us at your studio.
Thanks, David, for having me.
Cool. Oh, we at your studio. You are having us.
Thank you. That I can have you.
That we can have each
I'm
other.
having it.
Yes. We're here at his studio in Silver Lakes, Pretoria. I've also known Stass for quite a while. Again, from a young engineer. I'm going to have a pop quiz for Stass and ask if you remember what was the first album that we worked on together. Stass is a producer and myself as an engineer.
Yeah.
Stass is also, he's been in the music industry for quite a while, eh? So, you've worked with pretty much almost everybody in the South African music industry, even prior to what I've met you, Yeah. So, well, let's have the pop quiz question quickly. What was the first album that we worked on together?
Well, it has to be Milani.
That's it.
It has to be that.
In the Red Sea, I think. Was
Yeah, at the Red Sea was the album, and that was like 2003.
End of 2003.
Can you believe it? Yeah.
And before some of you were born. All right. So awesome. Stass, let's jump right in. How did you start out in the music industry? What got you involved in picking up an instrument, and more importantly, at what stage did you decide, you know what, I want to start producing, I want to start engineering and actually produce albums and not just play on them?
Yeah. Dewald, you know what? I grew up as a musician, playing piano, starting guitar when I was in high school. Well, guitar in low school.
In low school?
Yes, in low school. Not in high school, but low school.
Okay.
Primary school. And when I left school, I went to totally just go for the band thing. At one stage, I was playing in 7 different bands at once.
Where was
Joburg area.
Joburg, all right.
There's from jazz bands to pop bands, top 40 bands, and church bands. Any kind of band I could play in. So as a musician, I started out. I always had an interest in technology. I never had an interest in producing. I didn't really know what it was about. I've always been a songwriter as far as I can remember. And so that was my passion. After school, I actually I did a year of just bands. Then I did a year just sound and lighting, working at a sound and lighting company. And so my experience in sound grew more live. And then I got a job offer to come and work at a studio. And I was like, okay, I've never done that. I didn't study this.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of experience and I've got a big passion.
Yeah.
I started working there and learned a lot by myself. I wish I could watch a program like this back then. I wish I had YouTube back then. I wish I had all the materials and the videos and the courses that we have
available
now.
Yeah, YouTube is changing the way people learn.
It's just so useful.
Yeah.
So I had a tough time teaching myself. I started out on Pro Tools in a studio. The first day I worked there, the guys, can you play the CD? I'm like, I don't even know where to plug the CD into. Yeah. I said, there's an interface of some sort.
There's the CD player. I don't know how to get into the speakers.
And eventually I couldn't even work with MIDI and click tracks and stuff. I had to record a band. I recorded a whole project without click track. I had to copy and paste without stuff being recorded on click track, and it worked. And then someday, the artist came to me and said, but you're a musician, right? I said, yeah. Because I was literally pressing the buttons.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's right. And they said, can't you do the guitar for us? Can't you actually arrange the music for us? I'm like, I can try. That's where that kick started. That was before I came to Pretoria, still in Joburg. That was about 2001. And from there on, I was involved in studio and projects and working as an engineer, working as an arranger, as a musician as well. And, obviously then producing the projects I was involved in.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. All right. So that whole transition from musician to producer, obviously, that is a giant learning curve, From working with artists, I know from experience as well, there's a big difference, to sitting down, putting up the microphone and pressing record and actually working with an artist, working with a singer that's behind a microphone. Where did you learn that whole thing, because I remember from being in studio with you where I was the engineer just pressing record and you actually knowing how to communicate with the artist, kind of just relax, have some water. Where did that whole thing, was it just the experience?
Well, in the beginning, all I had was instinct. Creative instinct. If I had to produce something, I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to go on instinct.
You went, what sounded good, and there we go.
That didn't sound so nice, so can we redo that? The guitar, I love that. I don't know what it is, but I like that. And eventually I realized a big part of producing, other than just being an engineer or just being a guitarist, is the way you communicate. You need to communicate. You're working with a person. Not everybody is extroverts. Most artists are introverts. If you put an artist, if you back them into a corner,
put a microphone in front of them,
they freeze or they freak out. And what are we doing when we're pushing them into a booth? We're doing that exactly. So you need to get them relaxed. You have to learn how to work with a specific person, to make what's inside of them become the most it can be.
Yeah.
So that's their ability, because everybody's got an ability that you can pull out of them, or you can actually block it if you work with them the incorrect way. So eventually I figured out, listen, if I tell this woman one more time she's singing out of key, she's going to freak out. She's going to freak out. And I worked a different way, and then I saw good results when you work the person. And until today, I've always tried to do that. Yeah. Always respect the person, always respect the person. They've got opinions and whatever, but always you must remember you're working with a person.
Yeah, trying to get the best out of them.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so this is probably a question I would have wanted to ask later, but since we're on that topic, so when you say trying to push someone, up until the point that they don't freak out, has that happened? Were you actually in the learning curve where the person...
Well, a couple of years ago, I won't mention the artist's name.
We'll just tag them.
I was working with an artist, kind of a rock album, and the guy had a great voice. He was a musician. He was very talented, great songs. But he was, as an artist, very immature. So I was trying to get this guy, I'm still it's the first day of vocals. And that's usually a tough day, because the artist has been in the studio, so excited about the project. And then when vocals step in, there's a lot of insecurities with vocalists. So now I'm still trying to figure out how to best work this guy into getting the best out of him. And he's just freaking out already now. And I'm trying to calm him. He's freaking out already. Eventually, he exploded in studio. And I was just looking around. I was like, get out of my booth. Come in here, go home. I don't want to see you today. Come back tomorrow with a better attitude. And he was like, didn't know what to say. And that's the first time in my life I did it. He came back the next day with the right attitude, and we were so productive. So yes, it has happened but it was, I think, more because he was so insecure. I couldn't even start working with him before he freaked out. Yeah, in case.
Yeah. So it does happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Talking about stuff like that, again, questions that I wanted to ask a little bit later, but we're jumping ahead, why not? So, highlights and lowlights of your career we'll talk about your career as a musician now as well, because for those of you who don't know, Stass is also the vocalist and band leader for the band Onbeskaamd here in South Africa. Well, you've done, a couple of international things as well, going to like Namibia,
Israel,
and all of that. We'll talk about the musicianship now, but as a producer in studio, highlights and lowlights of your career.
Yes, I've been so fortunate to work with guys and girls who have a passion for music. Highlights, I would have to say, is some of albums with artists like Unita Du Plessis. I mean, we did her first gospel album, Altyd Daar. That went like triple platinum. In South Africa over there, or back then, that was like 100.
That was in 2004.
2004. That album went triple platinum, and it's still selling until today. Her second album went quadruple platinum. So definitely I can't look past those. Those are highlights. I've had the opportunity to work with her kids. Back then they were small, in high school. Now they're artists in their own right. Ruan Josh, Franja Duplessis. I love their music and I love working with them. Gerard Stein, also in the Afrikaans industry, people will know him as Baby Chocolates. Working with the pop side. So for me, that was highlights. I don't know, lowlights. What would that be?
Worst day in studio ever?
Yeah, man. Look, I've had frustrations with artists that don't deliver, or if you get to a studio, you're prepared, but the artist is like, oh man, I still need to write this song, finish the song.
I'm not finished with the chorus yet.
Oh, come on, man. What do you want me to arrange if there's nothing to arrange to? Let's say a funny. It's maybe not a highlight or a low light, but it's a funny. I had an artist. She rocks up, but I've already agreed to do the project, and I heard she could sing. I never actually tested her if she could sing. And she says, okay, so I brought the songs for you to arrange, and then we can set a date for the vocals. Back then I didn't even, you learn. And she gave me this dictaphone, and I said, great stuff. So the songs is on here, the demos or whatever. And as she left, I was pressing play, and it's like, okay, mama gaan nou record, hoor. La 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 la. Shh, mama, record. La 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 la. And I was like, what have I got myself into?
What happened?
So eventually I got to a point, where the low lights for me was always working with the artist, just doing and keeping them happy. Until I realized I wasn't helping them. I wasn't helping them choose the right songs. I wasn't helping them. Which is
also an integral part of actually being a producer of an album, not just recording the song, but actually kind of. It depends, because we now remember back in the day with record labels and A&Rs, they would come to you. Well, this is the 30 songs we had.
There we go.
This is the 12 songs we decided on. But now also the role of the producers changed to actually helping the artist. Like, listen, maybe this song isn't, right for your voice.
So for me, that's very important. If you can have a great song with a, bad recording, and you can still use it. But if you got a great recording of a crap song, what do you want to do with it? Nobody wants to listen to it.
It's not going to play on radio.
It's not going to play on radio. So I've always tried, as far as I could, to, whether it's a rock song or a pop song or a country song or whatever, that it's accessible for public consumption. They must want to listen to this. That means we have to check the songs.
Obviously.
And being a songwriter, I love to work the song first, because if it's a good song, the arrangement follows.
Everything is a breeze.
Everything is a breeze. But I find when the song is not, when I don't like the song, when it irritates me, I can't arrange it. You try stuff, but it doesn't work. So,
all right. So tell us about your production process. How do you start? I was lucky enough now to actually overhear a conversation you had as we were setting up to film, talking to someone that you're actually, busy planning to record. So tell us about that process. When someone phones you initially, like, how's it, Stass? I got your number. I want you to record my album. What is the process? Let's say this guy or girl can sing and has some good songs. What is the process from meeting up, deciding direction, recording, mixing, mastering, and delivering? How does your process work?
My process, obviously, I need to meet the person, because for the rest of the project, I'm going to be working with this person. We need to establish some kind of bond, so we'll have coffee. I'll say, tell me about yourself quickly. What is it that you want to do? Because early in the process, I can see this guy is in the wrong direction and help him in the right direction, or this guy knows what he wants. He's actually going for it. That's great stuff. Where's the songs? If we don't have songs, we don't have anything. I'd like to, very early in the process, if I don't know the artist, say, can you play an instrument? Great. Put on your cell phone, your dictaphone, whatever, and just get me some demos, MP3s, emulate, that I can listen to your song that's as raw as possible. And I can see, he's got this type of voice, this is too low for him. Let's raise it. I recently had an artist, female artist, she did record the song before and came to me and said, there's something not like, people don't like the song, and I know it's a nice song. We ended up lifting the key, something as simple as that, 2 whole tones. And when I played the song to, other people are like, oh, amazing song, oh, amazing artist, small things. Key. So we'll set up those kind of things in the beginning, the groundwork. If those, things are sorted out in the beginning, the rest of the production follows. Before we can talk about schedule and what microphone are we going to use for your vocal, that comes later.
What drummer you're booking.
If there's no songs to work with and no direction, there's nothing to work with really.
Yeah.
So songs are sorted out, getting to know this guy or this girl, and now we say, okay, we've direction, we've got this feel, what are our references? We're listening to Taylor Swift, we're listening to Daughtry or whatever. And so, okay, I agree, if we reference these songs against these, at least we've got a sound and direction in mind. Yeah. And then production starts. I'll do pre-production, usually by myself. Some artists like to be involved in that and get the groundwork up, get a sound. These days, because I do a lot more of my own guitaring on the albums, I like to establish a sound, and usually it surprises the artist when you create a sound that works for the song, and they impress, like, oh wow, I love that. Can that work in that song as well?
Yeah.
So I try to get that going, and then obviously, with an arrangement, I don't go and track the drums yet, because there might be a tempo changing, and that's very important, So in the pre-prod is on, we've established the tempos, nothing's going to change, because if it has to change 3 times, we didn't do our homework. And then you start recording from guitars and whatever, and usually I get here midway doing the drums and vocals, backing vocals, eventually start mixing. When I'm this
week,
do you
mix your own songs?
Yes, I have. There was a couple of years that I mixed my own projects. I felt that I wanted to shift my focus. I got some other engineers to mix my stuff, and they did great jobs. Eventually, I felt I've always got something creative to say that I want different.
Yeah.
So I always don't agree with the level of the vocal, the sound of the vocal, the sound of the guitars, the role that they read it differently. And so I said, let's go for it again. Let's try mixing. I dove into, resources and spoke to friends, rubbing shoulders, listened to my mix, and they'd say it's too much bass. Eventually got myself sorted out. And so now, I'm comfortable mixing my own projects. Usually I prefer the mastering to go to someone else, like Jacob van der Westhuizen, who does great mastering work with a couple of great guys out there. And this week I mixed for an artist, and most of my time I spend on the first song to establish a direction and sound that I hear in my head for the artist, immediately bounce it against them, get their approval, or say, yes, we don't like the drums, it's too dry, or it's too wet, or whatever. And get that going. Now the artist loves that. And now the rest I can...
And you kind of have a template
to go
work with for the rest.
And that saves time for the rest of the workflow.
Obviously each song is different, but as long as you kind of established what the artist wants to, like how loud the vocal is, how loud the drums are, then it makes life so much easier.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
And obviously with mixing, for the guys who mix or attempt to mix, references are so important. One plugin that I will buy 10 times over if I have to is a plugin by I think it's Sample Magic. It's just called Magic AB. And you load your references songs in there, and you load references, and you A-B, set up your kick drum, set up your vocals, set up your instruments, and when eventually you listen to the mix, it's balanced. The next mix, you're going to reference to the same thing. But many years I did that. Yes. What I did for many years was I didn't use a reference. So to me, it would sound great. And then the next song, the vocals would be so much different, and the snare drum so much louder, and it doesn't sound like it's coming from the same album. So it's a stupid mistake. But referencing is very important.
That's also one thing that I've learned a lot from from one of our friends, Bruce Wallace, in his studio. He always has a reference track when he mixes. And I mean, something like that also like kind of changed the weather like completely, because you can literally the whole time, like you say, just A/B. You know, what are the Americans doing in their world flagship studios? You know, you don't reinvent the wheel. You know, just kind of.
And it's funny. I used to be very afraid to reference.
Because you're an artist, you don't want to steal.
No, not even that. Because my music might not sound as good as the reference. So now you're listening to the reference like, listen to the reference. And as soon as I got over my fear, I said, why does my
mix sound as good?
Different? Yeah. And now I can say, yes.
Mine sounds better.
Yes, mine sounds better.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, so it's like a...
Cool. So tell us about the gear that you prefer using. You know, what plugins do you use? Like, what's your secret weapons when it comes to, if you don't, well, you don't have to, some people don't want to share, but like plugins that you prefer using, microphones that you like on vocals, preamps, what gear do you prefer?
Well, in my own studio, I have a Manley Gold microphone, which is quite an expensive mic, very, very forgiving mic. So I love working with that because if I want a more poppy sound, I can record this far from it and have a great sound. It loves EQ. If I want a more Michael Bublé sound, I come closer to it, and it's got a great proximity adding effect. I run that usually either through my Great River preamp, which is a nice preamp, but it's supposed to be a Neve thing. It doesn't sound like a Neve to me. It's a bit different in any case. And then I've got the Universal Audio System, where I do pull in the, the 1073
presets, plugins that they have.
Plugins that they have. Well, at least they've got the Unison technology with the
preamp.
It's
actually it's an emulator. It emulates the
So to my ear, that sounds nice for vocals, especially when I track. So Universal Audio, for the guys who are aiming towards good quality plugins, that's a nice way to go. I use Waves. I love Mac DSP. They've got something in the sonicness that happens for me there. And then a lot of stock stuff.
Yeah.
I find myself going to a lot of, I work in Logic most of the time. I do work in Pro Tools too. I find myself, I want an EQ, stock.
Yeah.
Just a quick compressor, stock.
Yeah, I must say Logic's EQ and compressors are actually
very useful.
Quite nice,
It's so useful.
And very transparent. I found a lot of times, it doesn't, shape the sound in any way. Literally, even with the compressors, it just actually does what it's supposed to do.
If I want character EQs, I'll go to the Universal Audio stuff. They've got great character and sonic nice stuff that's happening. I've got 1176 compressors from Universal Audio, from Waves, from whoever is doing it. Everyone sounds different.
Yeah.
There's not one plugin that works for everything. You have to use your ears.
Yeah.
So I usually go for stock stuff. If I just want to remove stuff, if I want to add character, I'll go for the Universal Audio stuff. That's got some nice character. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. All right. So outside of the studio, you're also a singer, a songwriter, guitarist. You lead your own band, Unbeskaamd, which my wife was a part of. So that's
true.
And you were actually involved in Liesel's previous album as well. And I played on the CD launch. Tell us a little bit more about Unbeskaamd. How did Unbeskaamd start, and how has that progressed through the years? I know you're now on your 10th year anniversary.
That's right.
With that as well.
Yeah, we kicked off 10 years back. Had this vision for an Afrikaans project, it's a gospel project in worship music, and not a lot of guys around doing that. Felt we wanted to do it, and it really skyrocketed. Toured South Africa for the past 10 years. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Music-wise, I actually mostly played electric guitar in the band. Before that, though I started out on guitar, I was a bassist primarily for bands.
I remember you teaching me my first slap riff on your Lakeland, I think, back in the day when I was also...
Oh man, bass is my favorite instrument. I love bass, recording bass live. But I haven't played bass live for so many years because I gravitated towards electric guitar.
It's easier as a front man of a band.
As a front man, and to steer a band into a direction that was easier for me. And plus, I didn't want a electric guitarist in my band with a big amp and big stuff, and we can't fit everything into the car.
Yeah.
So I had everything smaller, digital, whatever.
I see the Helix siding there behind you.
Yeah, but I eventually ended up going bigger
again.
My own, carrying my amp, carrying my pedal board, and
yeah,
just how it was. But in any case,
how many albums have you guys out? I think
10.
It's 10 albums.
Yeah.
So you did one a year.
Yeah,
that is awesome. So
most of them live.
I'm going to put the links to all of Onbeskaamd's channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because I know you're also now running like a music video thing. We do
separately live. For Onbeskaamd.
For Onbeskaamd, I'll put channel, so you can go check out, what Stass does in his music, and you also play for other artists, or is it mainly just Onbeskaamd?
Well, these days mainly just Onbeskaamd. Here in the UK lab with a Anders or a Retief or whatever, but mainly just for Onbeskaamd because it happens over weekends. And then in studio, obviously, playing guitar in studio. I love anything that has a string on it.
Yeah, don't we all? And going into some form of distortion pedal and loud.
Yes, please.
We must have it.
Yes.
Awesome. Stass, if there is anybody watching this, and if you could, they want to become, a producer in this SA music industry. And we all know that it's a tough industry, but it's not an impossible industry to make a living from. What would you tell that person? Someone comes to you, Stass, listen, what advice could you give me? I want to be where you are in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What advice would you give that person?
If you chop a tree with a blunt axe, it's not you're gonna work very hard. If you study, if you get your resources, going, if you learn how to do it, you're going to become a much sharper axe and chop the tree much faster. Yeah. So sort that side out. Make sure that your relationships with artists, relationships with musicians, with other guys in the industry, that your relationships are great. Because you're always going to pick up your phone and say, yes, man, I've got this function. I know I can't do it alone. And I know you've got the knowledge. Can we work together? Listen, I just want to do this. Can you mix for me? I want to do the mixing. Can you do the tracking? Relationships are so important in this industry. You can't do it on your own at all. Although I can do from start to finish, I prefer not to. Because somewhere, even if it's just a musician that you get in, if it's just, you do those 5 songs mixing, you're always going to need people. So sort out your knowledge stuff, get your experience, and make sure that your relationships are healthy in the music industry, because you're going to use a lot of them. Yeah, definitely.
And also, I think what's funny that I've realized with the past 3 people that I've interviewed, all of them are actually musicians prior to being producers. How important do you think it's a fact to actually be able to play an instrument and know music theory, in a studio? How important do you think is something like that?
I think it's just great. It's a great way to expand what you want to communicate. If I talk to a guitarist in studio, being a guitarist myself, I'll say, can you lift the voicing? It's too low. You're in the range of the keyboard. But if I didn't know
what the terms are,
I would not know how to communicate. Now, somebody who does not play an instrument and wants to produce,
we'll have a tough time communicating.
We'll have a much tougher time to produce. You'll say, it doesn't sound right. It needs to go up or something. So it's very beneficial in communication. It's beneficial to understand arrangement, because not all guitars must be on G. They can have a million other places to come alive. That helps if you are a musician, if you're a drummer or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. And if people want to get in contact with you, if they want to work with you, learn from you, have a chat with you, help get you to produce the albums, how can they get in contact with you?
Email is the fastest, stassmusic@gmail.com. My website is currently under construction, so you won't reach me there, unfortunately. Facebook, you can find me on Stass Music, STASS Music. Yeah, so it's easy.
And Facebook? Instagram? Got to be on Instagram.
I'm not there yet.
Come on, we need some photos on there. All right. Awesome. Stass, it's been a blast. Thanks for having us at your studio.
Thanks.
It's been really cool. Guys, if you want to hook up with Stass, we'll have all of his links in the description below. Not his website, though, because that's not up and running. We'll have an Instagram profile, which will lead to something we don't know yet. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the like button. It's always great to hear from you guys, and comment. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, please add a comment. Did you learn something from today? And we'd love to hear from you guys. Cool. Until next week. Cheers.